Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Below the 38. This is episode 33 on Below the 38. It's a K-League 2 preview show, week 14. K-League 1 might be done and dusted until the first weekend of July. But the great news is, everybody, K-League 2 continues for a couple more weeks longer. My name is Andrew, joined as ever for the K-League 2 preview podcast by Mike. Hi, Mike.
How you doing?
Now, Mike was in Daegu at the weekend. There'll be no conversation of that particular game or the stadium. You'll find that in your YouTube feed because Mike, Luke, and myself, Andrew, have just finished recording the weekend that was, where Mike gave his thoughts on what is a very, very pleasant little stadium down in Daegu. So check out the weekend that was for more coverage or more information, more highlights from the most recent weekend of K-League 2. But for this week's show, we are looking ahead, as I said, to the upcoming weekend, which is weekend 14. Quick reminder, check out our website. It's a bit clunky, belowthe38korea.com. And there you will find videos, ground guides, round previews, assessment, opinion, everything. It's available on www.belowthe38korea.com. I will leave a link to that in the information to this podcast. So let's have a look at the upcoming fixtures. There are 8 as normal, which means one team is sitting out. The team that is sitting out, interestingly, is Jeonbuk Cheongju FC, having tossed away another good opportunity to record the first win of the season against Hwasong last weekend. Unless they win by June the 5th, or June the 6th, they will have played the entire first half of the K-League 2 season without recording a victory. And to be honest with you, it doesn't look like that day is going to come anytime soon. So it is Jeonbuk Cheongju FC are the team that sits out. They are the odd one out. The other 16 teams have a fixture this weekend. Some of these fixtures are massive. And what you'll probably figure out from listening to this preview is that most of the games involve a huge amount of travel. I don't know if this is by chance or by design, but it seems very, very strange. So Saturday, let's start, Mike. Saturday, 4:33 matches. They are Busan versus Paju Frontier. This is a first ever league meeting. Stadium to stadium is 430 kilometers one way. At the same time, Yongin play Daegu FC. That is a first ever league meeting. And at the Isun Sin Stadium, it's Asan, versus Suwon Samsung. Unfortunately, that's not a first ever league meeting because the Bluewings are competing for the third straight season in K-League 2. So what do you want to talk about for those 4:30 kickoffs?
I think right from the off, I think these are all fairly straightforward fixtures for I'd say, the 3 teams in the top 5. I imagine Busan should be getting back in the saddle. They've had that wobble. They've had that shock defeat to Hwasong, who, to be fair, are probably good value for it given their recent form. I think Busan should be dispatching Paju, don't you think?
Yeah, they will.
And then Yongin hosting Daegu. Daegu have finally sorted out much of their troubles. Interestingly, less game time for the Talisman, so to speak. And maybe that's what's clicking. They have a very young side when they don't play the likes of Cecilia and co. Which is actually pretty hopeful if Daegu do get promoted. They might have a young team to actually continue their record of amazing goal differences in the top tier. But I imagine Daegu should be beating Yongin. And I imagine Daegu fans might be quite excited to visit a new stadium. And if Suwon, if they're not beating Asan by the 95th minute, I'm sure something will come along to sort that out.
Yeah, very good. Well done. By the way, Asan are going very creative with their promotional poster for this one. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's on their Instagram page. Very, very nice. They're doing that obviously because this is their one big payday of the entire season, when they'll probably expect about 7, 8, 9,000 possibly at East Sunshin on Saturday, 4:30. Going to be very hot. 7 o'clock, there's 2 matches. Suwon FC versus Songnam. Surprisingly enough, this is the first league meeting since October 2022. Again, it just kind of highlights how good or how strong Suwon FC have been for the last number of seasons. very much punching above their weight in K-League 1, whereas two-time AFC champions Songnam have been mucking around, shall we say, in K-League 2. And then we have Gimhae versus Gimpo, 413 kilometers from stadium to stadium. This is a first ever K-League meeting between Gimhae and Gimpo, but they have faced before in the wilderness of K3 and the National Leagues. The last time they were in the same division was as recently as 2021. The sides drew 1-1 in Gimhae, and Gimhae won 2-1 in Salta. Didn't matter so much in the end because Gimpo won that championship and went up to K-League 2, although they would have gone up to K-League 2 either way. Both clubs have gone through some sort of a rebrand since then, so they are unrecognisable from the sides that faced back in 2021. So the 7 o'clockers, anything you want to add to that?
I think Suwon, I actually think they threw a 2-goal lead, didn't they, last round? They've only won 2 in 5. But I think the experience of giving up that lead is probably going to organise them a little bit, and that's bad news for Songnam. I think Suwon have to win this one, or they could find themselves outside of the top 6 very easily. Then of course you got the 2 Gim teams. Fantastic to see Gimhae finally get a win, but it's all about the Po, isn't it? And I think Gimpo are going to want to keep pace with the playoff spots, and I thoroughly expect them to do so.
Just a couple of pieces of information about that. This is also Gimpo's last away game for a long, long time. They played every single one of their fixtures to date on the road. They will return to a renovated Salta Stadium for the visit of Jeonnan Dragons the following weekend. Very exciting news for them. Also for Gimhae, their first win of the season, as Mike was saying, in Gwanyang at the weekend. Unfortunately, only 68 fans were there to celebrate with the team. So that's how things are in K-League 2. Let's move on to Sunday. There are 2 games at 4:30. Jeonnam Dragons versus Seoul Eland. That is a 348-kilometer trip, stadium to stadium. And at the same time, high-flying Hwasong FC take on Gyeongnam. So before we go on to the 7 o'clock game, which is also quite an interesting one, what do you think of those games in Jeonnam Dragons and Hwasong?
Well, I think Eland are sitting in third, 3 points behind the Blue Wings going into this. They want to be recognised, don't they? So they should be getting a win there. Hwasong Gyeongnam, I'm going to throw this out as my pick it around, actually, because I think Hwasong should be winning it, but Gyeongnam, they've got 3 wins. They've only lost once in the past 5 as well. Gyeongnam, I don't see them as playoff contenders, but if they do want to change that, then they need to win games like this. And I think they could cause a few problems for Hwasong. I can see this being a score draw and an exciting one as well.
Finally, 7 o'clock on Sunday. I know you're going to be there. It's Ansan Greeners versus Cheonan City FC. Cheonan face, compared to a lot of their other rivals in the league, one of the shorter away trips.
Yeah, so I'll be at that game, and I still don't really have much to say about it. I mean, Ansan they've played okay in a few games. They played fairly well in large periods of that game down in Daegu, yet still lost 3-0. It's a big sign of that lack of quality, and I think one of the differences is Cheonan also aren't great, but they've got a few little bits of quality across that team, which means that unless Ansan come out and actually score a few goals, if the game is tight, Cheonan are likely to find a breakthrough and probably a winner. Good chance I might actually be very excited until the 97th minute when Cheonan find a winner after 48 minutes of VAR for no apparent reason. On the other hand, I do think maybe this is the game where Ansan can do it. They can get to the 4th minute without conceding, but we'll see.
Yeah, they tend to concede a lot of early goals. So that's the game you're going to. Ansan Greeners versus Cheonan City FC, Wa Stadium, 7 o'clock on Sunday. If you want to go and meet Mike, if you've never met him before, it shouldn't be too hard to find them. That is Ansan Greeners versus Cheonan City FC. I don't know if I'm going to game this weekend. Busy on Sunday, busy on Monday. The only possibility is some of those Saturday games, but Busan's very far away. Yongin I never want to go to ever again. Asan is a potential trip. The away fan section is sold out. Suwon FC versus Songnam could be a good game, but I've had my fill of Castle Park, and it just simply won't be as exciting as when a North Korean team won the AFC Champions League against a team from Japan. So let's leave it there for now. If I am at a game this weekend, then you can be sure that I'll be talking about it on the weekend that was next week, alongside Mike, who will be talking about the game that he went to the weekend that was next week.
There are, of course, more options. There are still a lot of options, of course. Don't forget the K3 has a full program.
There is. I was having a look at the schedule, but they don't really fit me either. That's the issue. I'd love to go to a K3 game. I mean, Siheung is my closest team. I think pretty sure they're your closest team too.
Be,
they're playing on
Sunday. Yeah, they'll be beating Mokpo at 2. I imagine there's going to be a little more distance between them and the second, third, and fourth, who are all on the road this weekend. Full WK League schedule as well. Incheon are hosting Suwon for the second time this season. But Suwon, as I said, you've mentioned that AFC game. They'll be licking their wounds after what happened to them last week. They're probably the strongest team in the WK League, but Incheon, they'll want to capitalise on that, won't they? In fact, Luke may well be there as it's the only Incheon team in town this weekend. And another big one, league leaders Hwacheon are travelling to Mungyong Sangmu. The military team are in really poor form after dominating the early part of the season. Hwacheon are pretty much in the absolute opposite of form. So that could be quite an exciting one if you can get to Hwacheon, wherever that is.
The women's FA Cup fixtures were released today as well. I forget what the name of the tournament is. Because I just saw these fixtures before we came on air. I will have a short article about this on our website, below38korea.com. But there is a women's FA Cup on this season. There aren't a lot of teams, as you can imagine, taking part in this. There's about 68, 69, I can't remember what number it is in the men's FA Cup, but the number is significantly less in the women's one. But there will be an article on the website, below38korea.com, later about that. Do you want to dip into your magic box, or are you taking a week off from that?
No, I do indeed, because we have last week's item from inside the box. And that is, of course, this lovely little Ansan squeezy ball, which, if you have a little look there, they seem to have some sort of evolutionary comment on what I assume to be what an Anyang fan is. You can interpret that however you like. Okay, I did attempt to use it to demonstrate Anyang's goal last week, but it caused a bit of calamity. I must also point out, excitingly, it's taken a while to get there. This will be my 100th Greeners game. Obviously, I've followed Ansan throughout many periods of their history, but since the Greeners started in 2017, I just worked out that my average score is 0.9 goals to Ansan, 1.6 to whoever they are playing. By contrast, if I watch Anyang, it's 1.5 to 9. Bucheon, 1.2 to 1.4. It's grim. But, you can't change your team, can you?
No. I think somebody's done that before, but apparently you can't do that. So anyway, that is Mike's magic box order for this week. The Damned United, also known as Ansan Greeners, host Changnan City. If you want to have a look at Mike squirming at his 100th game as an Ansan fan, as they go 1-0 down inside the first 60 seconds, head along to WA Stadium on Sunday at 7 o'clock. That's it from us on the K2 preview pod for this week. Check out our YouTube, because there will be a K-League 1 report card featuring a bored Luke. He's got nothing to do now that the World Cup has taken centre stage and there's no K-League 1 until July. And you will also find the weekend that was with Luke, Mike, and myself, Andrew. Until next week, thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you again.